SpaceX and Blue Origin have officially won the contracts for the Artemis missions, our return to the moon. Dr. Brad Tucker and I dive into this, talking science, story of the week.
Across Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts and YouTube, this is Talking Science with Dr. Brad Tucker and Matt Miller.
Alrighty, Brad, it's time to talk Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, but not what they're doing or not doing, saying or not saying. It's rather about their space companies, SpaceX and Blue Origin. They've officially been awarded the contracts for NASA's Artemis missions. This was sort of just the official signing of the piece of paper, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, we've been itching close that we knew NASA, through talking about it, that they were going to work with a private company to develop their lander, the lunar lander. We talked about when Blue Moon, which is Blue Origin's lunar lander, was slightly unveiled as the early prototype. But what they have officially announced is, yes, here are the contracts, and now here's where the work begins. There's three companies vying to win ultimately the design over to be that official lander, the second vehicle that would land people on the moon, and the first built by a private company. So a very big thing, big stakes, and something interesting to see, but confirms what we've been talking about and knowing would happen.
I did allude to it there when we started this topic, that you know the billionaire owners of these companies are maybe doing some things that aren't probably in the best interests of humanity, but they are funding these companies, which I guess sort of gives them a little bit of a free pass, maybe.
I
don't want to get too political.
No, it's trying to find the right balance.
What's he saying?
Yeah, you have to be a bit eccentric, I think, to do what they're doing. That might be a correct term. And I don't think it gives you, you do one good thing and it gives you excuse for other actions. But we also, I think, have to view that while they may be financing these companies, the contracts are coming in from NASA and other groups to pay for it. And there's, thousands of good people to actually push it over the line. So, it's kind of like saying NASA may be terrible or good because of who the president is and their goals, right? I think that's kind of that same way to feel, because ultimately it's kind of the same financing model almost.
You hit the nail on the head there as well, that there are thousands of people, thousands of employees working for the companies that it's their jobs and it's their livelihoods. So it's supporting those people, and they're the ones that are doing the great things. They're the rocket engineers, they're the rocket scientists that are actually making all this happen. The smart people are actually just getting the job done and getting the next man and the first woman onto the lunar surface in the next 5 years.
And that's exactly right. These companies are employing lots of people who are doing great work and helping to grow this great sector, and we're seeing the benefits of this now kind of financially and economically to building satellites and companies. And it gives people a real chance to be involved in this industry. So I think it is a great thing. It's just some people tweet weird things. And look, that can apply to any of those space organizations I just mentioned. Let's be serious now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's the timeline for Artemis? Obviously, there's going to be some testing missions. There's going to be test missions. There's going to be proof of concepts, or the proof of concepts are there, but actually going through these steps. We saw it with Apollo, with the way that they gradually progressed through to Apollo 11. Is that the sort of plan that we're going to have here? We're going to have a few dry runs, send a few capsules around the moon, sort of thing. What's the sort of timeline? Do you know, Brad?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So Artemis won't have as many missions as the Apollo, because they know kind of at least some of the principal things, what works, what doesn't, what they need to do. But there will be a lot of testing ones. I don't think it's until Artemis 3, maybe Artemis 4, that it actually should be the landing on the moon of humans. Artemis 1 is really just sending something on the rocket and capsule into space, and then going around the moon, and then trying to get there. And really, so doing a few of these, I guess, integration tests stepped, and they won't be, Artemis 1 didn't land on the moon, it was a failure. No, just as Apollo, they have concrete goals to test and to aim for. Just as the upcoming launch in May for SpaceX's Crew Dragon to the space station, they're only really going to go up there for a week or so to go up there and make sure it works, docks, and comes back down. So you have to do the full test before, you have to crawl before you can walk, and you have to walk before you can run.
And that's the biggest thing to remember as well, that there will have been about 50 years in between lunar missions. So a lot of the lessons that were learnt back in the 60s and 70s kind of really need to be relearnt a little bit.
A little bit of relearnt on the technology, and also all the other things we've learnt in the history of space and folding that back into the Apollo missions. And you might say, oh, well, we go into space all the time. Well, there's different types of airplanes, right? And what a mechanic who works on a car doesn't fix aircraft engines. They're kind of similar and they travel to places, but they're very different beasts. So we can't necessarily compare the Soyuz capsule going to the space station to going to the moon, for instance.
And it's also the speed as well. The Soyuz and even the Crew Dragon are going to be flying much slower than Starship is to get us to the moon.
Yeah, you have to get to the moon in a few days, and the other capsules would take weeks to get there. They're dramatically different in terms of speeds, and therefore technical issues, safety issues, mechanical issues, health issues, all those things weigh in. They have to properly vet before they just throw someone on the moon.
Throw someone on the moon.
That's the slang term for the Artemis mission. We're going to throw someone on the moon.
Well, technically it is, because you have to slingshot out of the Earth's gravity to get to lunar orbit.
That's true, and you do a fly around the moon, and they had a jump out of the lunar capsule on Apollo 11, so we're not too far off here. Tossed to the moon, if you want to be correct.
Maybe they could just try a degrading orbit, just sort of launch out of the airlock as they were approaching lunar orbit.
That's right. They won't really burn up. It'll just take a while to get to the surface. Yeah.
Gradually float down, maybe?
Yeah.
Like a parachute drop.
Yeah, there you go. It just take a while, a very long while, and you need a lot of parachutes.